This is the book America BC, Ancient Settlers in the New World by Barry Fell. Druids in Vermont, Phoenicians in Iowa before the time of Julius Caesar, the first major work to penetrate the mystery of America's remote past. Go to chapter 1 of this book. It says here, An American Enigma and its Solution. It's going to be a little blurry, but I'll read it out to you guys. It says here, 2 centuries of independence, 200 years of national awareness. There are the underlying themes of countless festivities now in progress or planned throughout the 50 American states. The world at large pauses a moment to reflect upon the prodigy that grew from the 13 rebellious colonies when George III lost his American domains. But wait a bit. There is more to America's past than appears upon the surface. A strange unrest is apparent among many of the younger historians and archaeologists of the colleges and universities, a sense that somehow a very large slice of America's past has mysteriously vanished from our public records. For how else can we explain the ever-swelling tally of puzzling ancient inscriptions now being reported from nearly all parts of the United States, Canada, and Latin America? The inscriptions are written in various European and Mediterranean languages, in alphabets that date from 2,500 years ago, and they speak not only of visits by ancient ships, but also of permanent colonies of Celts, Basque, Libyans, and even Egyptians. Alright, so again, what he's saying is they found all this writing here, all these inscriptions of all these ancient people. A lot of this dates back to 2,500 years, he's telling you. Now, if America is the true old world, then he might be seeing it backwards and reverse. Continuing, it says they occur on buried temples, on tablets, and on gravestones and on cliff faces. From some of them, we infer that the colonists intermarried with the Amerindians, and so their descendants still live here today. There was once a time when such finds were attributed to the misguided folly of uprooted colonists from Europe, to forgers or cranks fabricating tradition for a society that has none. But skepticism changed to bewilderment when it was discovered that American inscriptions, some of them known for a century or more, turned out to have been written in ancient scripts of a type only recently deciphered in Europe or North Africa. Thus, the truth has slowly come to light. Ancient history is inscribed upon the bedrock and buried stone buildings of America, and the only hands that could have inscribed it were those of ancient people. America, as we now realize, is a treasure house of records of man's achievement upon the high seas and bygone ages. Remember the seafarers of America. They're seeing all this in reverse. America's a true old world. Even more so, our inscribed rocks and tablets, a heritage from a forgotten era of colonization. They tell us of settlers who came from the old world and who remained to become founding fathers of some of the Amerindian nations, alright? These ancient writings can easily be classified into some half-dozen styles, each now known to be associated with one or other of several ancient peoples whose languages have been in part recovered. New inscriptions are being discovered almost every day, from localities thousands of miles apart, usually under circumstances that preclude any possibility of fraud. These remarkable and hitherto unsuspected facts have come to light this past summer of 1975 in the course of an archaeological survey of New Hampshire and Vermont. The hundreds of inscriptions among the ruins attest the vitality of Celtic civilization in pagan times and tell a wonderful story of how Europeans lived in the Bronze Age. Our first season's work has yielded only hints of the fate of the Celtic kingdom, but this book relates what we have been able to find out of the first 1,000 years or so of their settlements in North America. About 3,000 years ago, bands of roving Celtic mariners crossed the North Atlantic to discover and then to colonize North America. Alright, so this is what they're seeing because they're finding these things here, and these things are dating that far back. But I would say they're seeing it in reverse, and I got future videos. This is going to be a deep month again. We're going to get deep. Who are the Celtic? We're going to go over that again. What is the origin of the people? Who are the Picts? Who are these original Irish? Who are the Tuatha Dé Danann? We're going to get into all that. And real quick, we got this picture right here. Right? And it says down here, 2 generations ago, Edward Reed was plowing his property near White River, Vermont, when the earth gave way beneath him, and he discovered an underground passage leading into this chamber. Here, John Williams examines the interior. Deeply inscribed letters on a buried lintel later disclosed that the chamber is a small temple dedicated to the sun god Bel, Peter J. Garfel. Continuing the book, it says, in the wake of the Celtic pioneers came the Phoenician traders of Spain, men from Cadiz who spoke the Punic tongue, but wrote it in the peculiar style of lettering known as Iberian script. Although some of these traders seem to have settled only on the coast, and then only temporarily, leaving a few engraved stones to mark their visits or record their claims of territorial annexation, other Phoenicians remained here, and together with Egyptian miners, became part of the Wabanaki tribe of New England. Oh, that's a deep one right there. All right, we're going to get into all that again. It's going to be a deep month when talking about the Tuatha Dé Danann, the Danites, the Phoenicians, the Picts, the Celts, and all these sea people, ancient sea people. We may be seeing it in reverse again, where the Phoenicians are coming out of Canaan or the Promised Land, right? That's America. Let's not forget that. So they're saying the Wabanaki, the Wabanaki tribe of New England. So some Phoenician miners, some Egyptians, and Iberian Celts, Further south, Basque sailors came to Pennsylvania and established a temporary settlement there, leaving, however, no substantial monuments other than grave markers bearing their names. Further south still, Libyan and Egyptian mariners entered the Mississippi. Egyptian mariners, in the Mississippi, the real now, that is Egypt. You see, touch the hijack from the Gulf of Mexico, penetrating inland to Iowa and the Dakotas. They're only saying this is because they found Egyptian hieroglyphs and writing there. So they're saying, oh, Egyptians must have came from over there in Africa. Because remember, these people are all coming with their out of Africa background and theories still. So they're trying to explain how these writings are here. But remember, the Nile or the Mississippi, which means the Great River, is the real one. So of course you're going to find inscriptions like that there. So again, penetrating inland to Iowa and the Dakotas and westward along the Arkansas and Cimarron rivers to leave behind inscribed records of their presence. Norse and Basque visitors reached the Gulf of St. Lawrence, introducing various mariners' terms into the language of the northern Algonquin Indians, the Basque and the Algonquin. We're going to get into that, the Algonquin Basque Pidgin language. Very similar, they can communicate with each other. We're going to get into all that, okay? Descendants of these visitors are also to be found apparently among the Amerindian tribes, several which employ dialects derived in part from the ancient tongues of Phoenicia and North Africa, okay? And American Indians language, the true old world, that's why. Don't see it in reverse. The Celts seem first to have settled near the mouths of rivers of southern New Hampshire. At some time they ascended the Connecticut River, sailing as far north as Quechee, Vermont, where a western branch of the river joins the main stream through a precipitous gorge. Attracted doubtless by the seclusion of the uplands beyond the gorge, the Celts turned westward and colonized the hanging valleys of the Green Mountains. Quechee, incidentally, perpetuates the ancient Gaulish pronunciation of Celtic word Kithe, meaning chasm or pit, and the river that flows through the gorge, the Otaquechee, similarly is an Amerindian rendering of the Celtic name meaning waters of the chasm. In the secluded valley and on the hilltops, the priests or druids erected the temples and circles of standing stone required by their religious beliefs, using, like their European cousins, the great stone boulders left upon the land by the retreating glaciers at the end of the Ice Age. On these stones they cut their inscriptions, using the ancient Celtic alphabet called Ogam. All right, Ogam. We're going to find a lot of Ogam here in America. We're going to get into all this again. We're just getting started here. In Europe, the Celts doubtless did the same, but when Christianity came to the Celts, the priests caused all the ancient pagan inscriptions to be erased, replaced by Christian Ogam, or left blank, while all the offending fertility paraphernalia were totally destroyed. Not so in America. Here, Christianity never came to the Celts. Their old pagan inscriptions remain intact, and a host of giant stone phalluses characterize the places of worship. All right, so that's deep. They're saying this stuff is not over there in Ireland because it's been destroyed, but it's still here in America. So which one might be the older one and more original? It's still here. It's still intact here. All right, think about that. Here we may yet see and read the ancient inscriptions of the rite of initiation to manhood, and see those sites of ritual worship of the powers of fertility and nature. In short, we have preserved in North America the oldest phases of religious thought and action of European man, of which only the merest traces have survived in Europe itself, all right? It's here in America, the oldest phases of religious thought, all right, of the European man. It's here. This is the origin. Listen to what he's telling you. The consequences of these discoveries for archaeology and history are, of course, immeasurable. As one historian, Professor Norman Toden, has pointed out, it means that 2,500 years of American prehistory must now be transferred to history. For history begins when writing begins, and we now have the oldest written documents of our nation and the names of the men who wrote them. For archaeology, a whole new view is called for. During the past 100 years, the belief that no European settled America before Leif Erikson or Columbus has grown from an hypothesis into a firmly rooted dogma. All right, so before we continue on the previous page, they have this image right here. And I think we've gone over this in the video already. And then we got this one right here. And they're comparing it, I guess. It says, early colonists in Eastern America, as they saw themselves. Above right, a Celtic portrait from Stark County, Ohio. This sculpture represents Bel, the sun god. And his afro hairstyle symbolizes radiant energy. Right, a marine. All right, we're going to get into this book real quick. It's called Pre-Columbian Resources Potentials, a comparison of Old World and New World petroglyphs by Margaret S. Henke for the Bureau of Land Management under the Wiki Intern Program, September 1978. It's here abstract. The purpose of this paper is to explore the possibilities for pre-Columbian contact in the western United States by studying the petroglyphs for possible Old World scripts. It is intended to be a survey of the literature on pre-Columbian contact and to give examples of the types of petroglyphs and scripts that BLM surveyors in the field may encounter. The words diffusion and independent invention cause a reaction among anthropologists whenever they are spoken. Thus, it is not unusual that the idea of transoceanic contact between the Americas and Asia and Europe sparked controversy. When Barry Fell, a marine biologist at Harvard, published his bicentennial book, America BC, that's the book we just came from, right? So you see, he's from Harvard. Much of the American anthropology community was outraged. Although books have been published before on the subject of transoceanic contact with America before Columbus, most of these were considered frivolous by the academic community. The exceptions, such as Riddles in History and Before Columbus by Cyrus Gordon, were not so provocative that the academic community could not ignore them. Fell, however, attacked the problem of script in American petroglyphs with such new and conclusive statements that he both intrigued and irritated. His statements for transatlantic contact rest on his translation of Old World language and Old World script in American petroglyphs. Much of the land west of the Mississippi, where petroglyphs can be found, is under the responsibility of the Bureau of Land Management. Therefore, it is important that its field administrators and surveyors be aware both of the major issues of the controversy and the fact that rock art sites under BLM protection are one of the major sources of information which scholars will need to examine. Rock art has been important in the diffusion controversy because Barry Fell has found Old World script in the geometric symbols and petroglyphs. He professes to have found Punic, Iberic, Celtic, and Libyan languages and scripts from New England to California. The linguistic community has reacted to these decipherments with an even mixture of approval and disapproval. His original and main area of research is in the Pacific Islands. Experts in this area accept his linguistic theories more readily. He ties Indo-Pacific languages and scripts back to Libyan languages and scripts in North Africa. His Celtic theories are the most criticized. However, his critics seem to be locked into one particular Ogam script, which is found in the British Isles. Since there are records such as the Book of Ballymote, which indicate that there was more than one Ogam script, their arguments may be based more on tradition than on sound criticism. Stone tablets have been found in the mounds along the trade routes. One at Davenport, Iowa, was translated by Barry Fell as containing a trilingual inscription in Egyptian hieroglyphs, Iberian Punic, and Libyan scripts, all right? The Davenport tablet, that's what he's talking about right there. We've gone over that in previous videos, in my older videos, and we've showed that that was an official find in the mounds. Again, it contains Egyptian hieroglyphs, Iberian Punic, and Libyan script. The Davenport calendar still, both in the scripts and the drawings, describe a ceremony very similar to the Egyptian celebration of the New Year. An elephant pipe was also found in this area. The Davenport artifacts were discredited by the Smithsonian as forgeries, but fortunately, the town erected a museum to house them. Thus, years after they were declared forgeries, Fell was able to transcribe the tablets with knowledge of the script, which had been developed after the objects were rejected. Another similar incident involved a tablet excavated in the late 1880s by the Smithsonian Institution from a mound in London County in eastern Tennessee. The Bat Creek inscription was published upside down in an official report in 1894. The stone was deposited in the Smithsonian Institution, along with field notes and a whole set of archaeological artifacts with which it was found. An alert researcher realized the inscription was published upside down and brought it to the attention of Cyrus Gordon, who translated the inscription in Hebrew using an old Hebrew script of about AD 100. All right, we're talking about the Bat Creek stone. Again, we have a video on this as well. Several videos talking about this. The Bat Creek inscription, the Bat Creek stone. Yes, it had Hebrew writing, ancient script, Old Hebrew. These finds demonstrate the importance of preserving old artifacts containing possible script, whether or not they seem authentic at the time. The state of Arkansas has set an example for other states in the area of rock art preservation. The narrow shelters on White Rock Road in Crawford County have been set aside as a historical site by the state. The inscriptions contain both Christian and Libyan influences. Fell states that the upper left hieroglyph is the word soul because of the light rays surrounding the figure's head. In addition, the figure holds an Egyptian tayyid amulet, which is a symbol of everlasting life. Just below this is his lifeless body, and just inside the grotto is the Libyan word twat, which means raised from the dead. The same word is written on the right side of the entrance of the cave. Fell notes that the script is correct tifina. It could be a forgery only if it was written after 1973, when the Libyo-Egyptian language was first deciphered. He suggests that the writing style appears to be 4th century or later. It may be related to the flight of Christian monks from North Africa when Vandals crossed the Straits of Gibraltar. All right, so that's them trying to explain why they finding this here. Because this is the true old world. Again, let's not forget. Moving westward into Oklahoma via the Arkansas rivers, numerous inscriptions have been found in areas across the state. The inscriptions were recorded by Gloria Farley long before the present controversy on Old World scripts. In 1975, George Carter, professor of geography at Texas A&M University, submitted some of Farley's inscriptions to Fell, who identified many of them as Iberian scripts found in Spain. There are 4 principal scripts, one used by the native Basque, one used by Libyans, a square Numidian script, which came to Spain about 1500 BC, a pointed Punic script, which came to Spain about 1000 BC, and a type of Proto Ogam, used by the Celts around 1000 BC. This ogam is characterized by a horizontal line divided by groups of vertical slashes, which denote letters. Often these Iberian scripts appear as bilinguals. One of the most interesting inscriptions recorded by Gloria Farley is the Pontotoc stone found in Oklahoma County of the same name along the South Canadian River. The sandstone artifact was chiseled from a larger stone, a practice which is not recommended. It is now 12 inches by 16 inches by 3 inches and weighs 40 pounds. 2 Iberic scripts are found on it, along with 3 human figures and a small ship. The scripts Ogam Punic and Iberian Punic have been identified by Fell as part of the hymn to the Aton by the pharaoh Akhenaten. Alright, that's what they found in Oklahoma. Listen, the rays on the tablet represent the rays of the sun. Fell suggests, based on the style of the Ogam script, that it be dated circa 500 BC. Another significant Oklahoma site occurs in the area of the Cimarron River, in the Oklahoma Panhandle, where numerous potential inscriptions are found. One is particularly interesting because it shows the relationship of a rock art picture to the script. It is an incised horse, which has been called by experts in primitive art the most beautiful petroglyph in America. The horse measures 25 inches, and its lines are very faint. The inscription inscribed on his shoulder is Numidian, according to Fell. In Libyan, it reads swift-footed. The legs are incomplete, which is interesting because the same depiction of the legs of a horse occurs on a vase excavated in Lyria and eastern Spain. If this site is verified, it will be important because all horse pictures in rock art have been presumed to be historic. This would challenge that hard and fast rule. You hear this? They have the other piece. They have the bottom piece. Wow. Another impressive Cimarron petroglyph is a 26 either feet or inches figure of a man holding 2 spears with an inscription near him. The entire petroglyph is weathered, although the top line of the inscription is fainter than the rest. The inscription is probably bilingual, with the bottom line being Numidian. At this time, it has not been deciphered. The figure itself, with its pointed shoulders, is similar to figures from Big Bend, Texas, northward through Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana. With further study, this petroglyph may yield information about the relationships between these areas. All right, again, we're just going over what they have found and they never told us about. All right, these ancient scripts. Iberic script can be followed farther up the Arkansas River into Colorado. Professor Etienne Renaud of the University of Denver noted the similarity between the rock art of Oklahoma and that in southeastern Colorado. As a Frenchman, Renaud received his training in anthropology in Europe, and he has also written on the similarities between the rock art of the Iberian Peninsula and that in Colorado and Wyoming. Thus, it should not be surprising that a site at Hackberry Springs in Las Animas County in southeastern Colorado has petroglyphs which may be scripts. The site was originally being researched in 1976 by Dr. Don Rickley, BLM historian, for evidence of an 1868 skirmish between L Company of the 7th Cavalry and a Cheyenne War party. While in the area, he noticed several incised petroglyphs with intersecting straight lines and unfamiliar symbols. Later, after a trip to Scotland, where he noticed similarities between Hackberry and rock art in Scotland, and after reading America BC, he recognized the potential significance of the petroglyphs for the question of Old World contact. This inscription was later verified by Fell as being a variant of Ogam writing in a Celt Iberic language. One referred to a priest of Bel, and another to a king and his woman. The cave where they are found has numerous other hash marks or various levels in the cave. This is entirely consistent with the appearance of many caves in Europe, which are literally covered with such hash marks. Nearby in the area of the John Martin Reservoir on the Arkansas River are numerous other sites whose petroglyph site reports indicate that they may also contain Iberic scripts. These sites should be reviewed carefully for their protection and to ascertain the area's possible value for education and recreation. Significant sites are likely to be found throughout southeastern Colorado, all right? It's all over the place. They never reported none of this. Returning east into Oklahoma, many sites have been found in the Tulsa area. In a thoughtful report, Donald Buchanan discusses 4 Oklahoma petroglyph sites which he and the late Alf Monge, noted Runic expert, had attempted to decipher using runic letters. Although they were able to work out a transcription, Buchanan was never satisfied because the transcription could not be clearly translated. Taking the tip from Fell that the scripts might have Semitic base, Buchanan was able to decipher them using North Iberic script forms and an Ibero-Punic language. The Tulsa inscriptions of these 4 inscriptions is transcribed as DH Tua MNH and reads from right to left Huna Mawati Ad. This translates as here is the wasteland's edge. Each of the other transcriptions offers similar comments about boundaries when transcribed in this script. Buchanan's work is significant because it independently verifies Fell's work with other Oklahoma scripts. This is the type of testing which needs to be done by researchers. Another of the Oklahoma sites reported by Gloria Farley is called the Batchy Stone, after the town near which it was found in 1943. In shape, the stone has the appearance of a gravestone. At one time it was part of a group of stones, but when the site was relocated in 1968, the other stones had apparently been carted away and used as fill. Approximately 15 by 13 by 3, the stone, which is fine-grained sandstone, tapers to a 5-inch base. An inscription is carved along the top, and horizontal lines occur on the edge which are similar to vertical ogam. Fell has deciphered this bilingual inscription and finds that the top line reads from right to left HLLHG in a South Iberian script. This translates to be a gravestone inscription. Haga rests here. The Ogam script in the style of Cachao da Rapa in northern Portugal reads HG and translates as Haga. I'm going to get into this book now. The book is called Ancient Celtic America. It was written by William R. McGlone and Philip M. Leonard, 1986. Where in the introduction it says, in their study of selected southwestern petroglyphs sites, McGlone and Leonard make a strong case for the presence of messages written in the Ogam script, all right, in pre-Columbian America. Since this idea is virtually unthinkable to some scholars, the authors also provide the reader with a context of diffusion versus isolation as models for understanding ancient America. Ancient Celtic America approaches the problem of ancient writing in Colorado and adjacent states with the excitement of discovery, but open-mindedly. Conclusions are based on investigation, study, and analysis of on-site data. Epigraphy and archaeoastronomy are brought together to solve mysteries involving both. The authors collaborated several years and worked with others in team efforts to unravel meanings of petroglyphs bearing astronomical significance, particularly those recording equinoxes. The old argument that transoceanic voyages were impossible or unfeasible, or even just did not occur, have been proven, to put it simply, erroneously. All right, they already debunked all that. Voyages to and sometimes from America were made possible on ancient seas by the daring skill of the navigators. Right, remember the ancient American navigator videos that I did. The search for wealth, curiosity, and the often desperate desire of passengers to improve their lives. Crossing the oceans would have been as easy or as difficult in 500 BC as in 1500 AD, with some crossings taking place from the development of ocean-going sailing as early as 3000 BC. All right, we've been doing that here. Remember, 30,000 years of navigation, all right, down in Panama, Central America. I just want to bring you to chapter 1, pre-Columbian context with the New World. I'm going to read some information right there and show you some artifacts. It says here, many areas of the United States have produced claims of finds of Norse artifacts, most of which remain under a cloud of controversy, with supporters holding strongly for their authenticity and critics believing they have clearly debunked them. While most of these issues will not be discussed here, two that involve inscriptions, a subject more central to the theme of this book, will be considered. In Oklahoma, nearly a dozen stones have been found with inscriptions on them which appear to contain runic characters like those used by the early Norse. Some of the stones are small and portable, while others are large monoliths like the one at Heavener, Oklahoma, which is the central attraction of a state park. Some of these inscriptions do not translate in Old Norse, and others do not yield translations that inspire confidence. One other Norse artifact that must be mentioned is the famous Kessington stone from Minnesota. It is inscribed with runes which tell of a group of Norse and Goths on an exploration from Vinland, 10 of whom were killed. They had left 10 men with their ship at sea, 14 days' journey away. The stone is dated 1362. Its authenticity has been vigorously challenged by many skeptics on linguistic grounds, the circumstances of the find, and the appearance of the stone. Their verdict has been that the stone is a hoax. Yet supporters have argued strongly for its authenticity and proposed that it might have been made by members of the Paul Knudsen expedition mentioned previously. Denials based on linguistics have been the most severe, with claims that the inscriptions contains a mixture of runes and language not consistent with the 14th century as known to the various critical experts at the time they wrote. But this argument can boomerang if later research shows these inconsistencies were actually correct usage in the Old World. All right, how do they know what languages were here, right, in the true Old World? This would demonstrate authenticity. For if experts near the time of the finding did not know of these usages, a hoaxer surely could not have known. There's old world. They found it here in Minnesota. All right, you guys see that? They found this, again, in Minnesota. This here, chapter 3, American Epigraphy. The whole approach to ancient history, including medieval history of the Americas, has been based on false premises. That they are false is abundantly proved by the written records left for us to read by those very Americans whose history we have presumed to deduce on the basis of their discarded broken pots. All right, he didn't say Celts or Irish, he said Americans left that behind. Barry Fell. On the rocks of North America, there are dozens of inscriptions that are carved in ancient Old World script. They are written in a number of alphabets and languages, apparently by different peoples over a long period of time. Today, many of these inscriptions can be read largely due to the efforts of one man, Barry Fell, but his works have been rejected by much of the academic community, essentially without a fair hearing. The art of decipherment. Epigraphy is the deciphering of ancient inscriptions and the study of the language involved, all right? That's what epigraphy is. Some consider it an art, some a science. And although there is much science involved, something more is required. In addition to the extensive knowledge of alphabets and languages that must be learned, it also employs a basic natural gift that cannot be taught. American inscriptions. Finding New World epigraphic inscriptions in this hemisphere is not new. A number of Old World scripts were discovered here many years ago. Some were found in the last century, and some during the excavations of the burial mounds in the eastern United States. Table 4 shows details of several of the better-known discoveries. Not included are the principal Ogam finds, additional scripts from the southeast Colorado area, and others reported here for the first time. They will be separately covered in this and latter chapters. Many examples cited in the table are on man-portable stones, and some have been found in archaeological digs. They represent a variety of alphabet language combinations and come from widely separated areas of the Americas. All right, so this is the table he's talking about. Artifacts with inscriptions they found here in America. All right, you can see the name, Bornstone, Borndale, Massachusetts. It has Iberic Punic. It says here, found in 1600, 1650, 78. It says a proclamation of annexation, do not deface, by this handle takes possession. That's what the translation says, supposedly, right? Then you got the Susquehanna stones. All right, we'll get more in depth with that. Lower Susquehanna Valley, Pennsylvania. It has Iberic and Basque, 1940s. It was found. All right, and then you got the Newark Holy Stone. We've talked about that with the Hebrew 10 Commandments on it. That was found on the mounds of Ohio. The Grave Greek tablet has Iberic Semitic inscription on it, found in the 1830s. It says here, the mound raised on high for Tasak. This tile, his queen, caused to be made. All right, that's the translation supposedly. Then you got the Braxton tablet, West Virginia, Iberic Punic inscriptions on it. It says here, the memorial of Tef. This title, his brother, caused to be made. The Bat Creek stone, we've gone over that with the Hebrew writing. Thurston Money Stone, Nashville, Tennessee. It has Libyan and Arabic. And then again, the Kensington stone has Runic Norse inscriptions. Davenport stone, we went over that from the Mississippi mounds. Egyptian variant, Iberic and Libyan. All right, in the Davenport stone they found in the Mississippi mounds. Los Lunas stones, right, in New Mexico with the 10 Commandments in Paleo Hebrew, found in the 1870s or prior to that. Big Bend tablet, National Park, mostly Libyan. And it keeps going, you guys. You see, you guys can pause it and take a look. Cripple Creek stone, Inyo Zodiac, the Alice Springs alphabet, the Ardmore in Oklahoma has Gaelic script. And you guys can see the translation, so you make sure to pause it and read it on your own. The Pontotoc stone, all right, in Oklahoma, Battle Mountain. The Cuenca tablet, it has Libic and Arabic. Cueneca gold plate, that's in Ecuador. Paphian, Cyprian, Minoan, Hittite variant. Parentine. Then you got the Comalcalco bricks from Mexico. Lamboyeque gold plate from Peru. Paraiba, an Iberic. Petersboro, Ontario, Canada. It says it's a very long inscription that describes visits of Bronze Age Scandinavian king Wooden Liti for copper trade. All right, copper in Michigan, the purest copper in the world right there. Newberry tablet has Cipro-Minoan variant. The Flora Vista tablet. All right, and then we got some images here real quick. 2 inscriptions from eastern Oklahoma. This is what they're talking about. You see this? These ain't fakes, they found these. The Pontotoc stone having both Iberic and Ogam writing. Inscription in Old Gaelic script, located near Ardmore, Oklahoma, that served as an ancient boundary marker. Wow. All right, the true old world. This is what they're finding here, okay? Ancient America. They kept us from our school books. Then we got the Bat Creek stone right here. We got a whole video on this. Paleo Hebrew, the Bat Creek tablet found in Tennessee in 1885, translated by Robert Stiglitz. So they officially found this. The Smithsonian dug it up themselves, so they can't say it was a hoax. They just try to put it backwards and put it in a box and just leave it alone until somebody found it again. It says here, Los Lunas inscription. Since it is located in the desert 16 miles west of Los Lunas, a little town south of Albuquerque, New Mexico, it is often called the Los Lunas Stone, the New Mexico Mystery Stone, Phoenician Rock, Inscription Rock, and the 10 Commandments stones are a few of the names others have given it. The controversy is usually between fraud and authenticity, but more properly it should be between modern and ancient dating of the time the inscription was carved. Was it inscribed before the time of Christ by Canaanite visitors in the late 1880s, by cowboys, or in the 1930s by college students? Based on the evidence available today, this question cannot be satisfactorily settled, and a neutral choice is made while the issue continues to be investigated. All right, so they cannot prove it wrong. Literally, that's what he's saying. We already know this is the ancient world. They found so much of this script here all over the place. Okay. It says abbreviated version of the 10 Commandments inscribed in a variant North Semitic script on a boulder west of Los Lunas, New Mexico. The original 10 Commandments on stone. The oldest stone containing the 10 Commandments is in America. It's right here in Los Lunas, New Mexico. We've done videos about this as well. All right, check them out. Table 5 says ancient Old World scripts, phonetic value, all right, Sephardic, Iberic, Neo-Punic, Aramaic, Los Lunas, all right, Tifina, and Libyan Numidian. So look at Los Lunas and Aramaic, it's almost the same. Very similar to Iberic too. You guys see that? So Los Lunas and Aramaic, very similar. A lot of the letters. The Los Lunas inscription is located in a drop part way up hidden mountain, a low basalt-capped mesa, less than a half-mile across, with a height about 400 feet above the valley floor. Approaching from the east, one cannot see the mountain until quite near, because it lies in the valley of the Rio Puerco River, which flows alongside. The inscription is carved on a large basalt boulder weighing perhaps 80 to 100 tons on a 3 by 5 foot face of the stone. There are 8 equally spaced lines of characters, with ninth inserted between the first and second at the point of a caret. Strokes perhaps 2 lengths of an inch wide and up to 1.5 inches long form the letters. The inscription is an alphabet that appears to be related to North Semitic script, resembling Phoenician or Aramaic of perhaps the 8th century BC. The rock surface and letters have been repeatedly cleaned, scorched, and chalked by everyone from television crews to the Boy Scouts, so that little can be told about age from the rock's appearance. Dr. Frank Hibben, former professor of archaeology at the University of New Mexico, first saw the stone in the early 1930s and said to the authors that it was covered with lichen and appeared very old at that time. The stone has been the subject of numerous investigations, and a variety of interpretations over the past 50 years has been translated into Navajo, Greek, and Hebrew. Various writers have claimed it to be a treasure map, a message left by Romans, a Mormon inscription, a message of the 10 lost tribes of Israel, and the work of an unhappy Spanish explorer who secretly was a Jew. Some believe it is ancient, and others think that it was inscribed in the late 19th or early 20th century. At least 2 hoaxes involving other inscribed stones have been perpetrated based on it. One was a group of fake cuneiform tablets planted near it, and the other a trail of stones having letters imitating those of the Los Lunas stones, with Old World artifacts buried near them. The present authors were instrumental in exposing both hoaxes by means of epigraphy. Both were found to be of quite recent origin. The only acceptable translation of the inscription is in Hebrew, as a version of the 10 Commandments given in the Bible in Exodus 20, 14, and 20. The presence of the semi-vowels used in ancient Hebrew, along with the grammar and syntax, argue for the Hebrew biblical translation. The Davenport Stone. There's another example of Old World writing in America that clearly illustrates the nature of epigraphic controversy and the degree of polarization present between opposing sides. Involved is the discovery of an inscribed piece of slate in an Indian mound in the last century. All right, the Davenport Stone we've talked about is they actually found this. Real scientists and archaeologists is going to explain here who they are. At that time, many small scientific groups or academies were formed around the country through which amateurs could engage in the pursuit of biology, geology, archaeology, and other sciences. One of the more prominent of these was the Davenport Academy of Natural Sciences of Davenport, Iowa. The academy had its own publication, in which a number of the authors, in addition to its own members, published papers, and it sponsored periodic meetings of small groups representing the different disciplines. Most popular was archaeology, as this was an area noted for its Indian mounds and with other opportunities for collecting artifacts. All right, so they found this Davenport stone. This is the stone right here. We've shown it again in a video. It says here that then in 1976, Barry Fell, in his book America BC, showed that one of the tablets, figure 16, contained a trilingual inscription in modified Egyptian, hieroglyphics, Iberic, and Libyan alphabets, and argued that it was epigraphically authentic. He says that the latter two tell that the stones gives the secret of regulating the calendar. The Egyptian describes how that is done by attaching a mirror to a pillar so that it will cast a reflection on a certain stone on the March equinox, and says that a festival of the new year should be held then. The tablet also shows a scene he interprets as the Digit festival of Osiris. We continue in the book America BC, Ancient Settlers in the New World by Barry Fell. We're on page 19, chapter 2. It says here, when American archaeologists first began to send me inscriptions for decipherment and translation, I was astonished to learn that such documents exist here. All my earlier work had been on ancient tablets and cave inscriptions of the Old World, records of the sea peoples of the Bronze Age and early Iron Age, some 3,000 to 4,000 years ago. What I now began to receive from unimpeachable sources in North America were essentially the same types of document, engraved in stone, and either excavated from some archaeological site, recorded from cliff faces, or photographed on massive rocks, discovered by the early colonists. I had never seen such materials mentioned or illustrated in books on the archaeology of the Americas, and indeed was oblivious of their existence. How is it, I asked my friend and colleague, Professor George Carter of Texas, that you are sending me all these materials? Has no one studied them before? His answer was, for 25 years I have been knocking on the study doors of professors of Greek and Latin, each time to be told that the objects I had in my hand looked like writing, but that it is not Greek or Latin, nor any script known to my consultant. So I emerged no wiser than before. Continuing, I, for my part, though a marine biologist, have spent much of my life studying the ancient voyages of people who left inscriptions on remote islands, which of course could only have been approached by sea. As a marine biologist, I felt obliged to examine this evidence, for it would have a bearing on how the dispersal of man, plants, and animals might be influenced by ocean currents and winds. So the decipherment of ancient inscriptions, the art of epigraphy, became my second specialty. It was through my fellow biologists at Harvard that Carter and I were introduced to each other's work. I learned that he had a maze-defined collection of American inscriptions, in the hope that their eventual decipherment might explain or illuminate his own researches. And he, for his part, now found a man who claimed to recognize the languages on his tablets. We soon found that the emergent information is consistent with our other independent investigations, and so the seal was set on a collaboration that proved most rewarding. When word began to appear in linguistic and archaeological periodicals of this joint effort, other archaeologists and some linguists contacted us. A flow of information now began that soon swelled to proportions far beyond anything either George Carter or I had dreamed. The Epigraphic Society was established, and we began to publish our findings, as well as those of others, in a form readily available to other interested people, both professional and amateur. So began the busiest and most productive period in my life, an exciting journey through space and time, bringing new friendships in a score of countries. All right, so I'm glad I was able to read this, because we're going to get into the Epigraphic Society's books and publications, articles they've done on all this ancient stuff they found here in America. Great articles, a lot of scholars involved. Many volumes exist of their publications, and they're very hard to get a hold of. Only a couple of volumes you can find online. The rest are very hard to get to. We're going to definitely read from some of them that we can find. Some great information I got coming. All right, so before we continue, I just want to show you guys on the previous page, I have this right here. And it says here, examples of Iberian inscription from North America, left. All right, this was found here. And from Europe, right. All right, you see, very similar. The American inscription engraved on a stone tablet was found in 1838 at a depth of 60 feet in a large burial mound at Grave Creek, West Virginia, together with a skeleton and copper arm rings. It was all once recognized by Professor Ralphs of Copenhagen as being Iberian, though the script had not at that time been deciphered. Recent studies show that the language of the tablet is Punic, Phoenician. All right, this was found here in West Virginia, okay? Written in the form of alphabet used in Spain during the first millennium BC. It may be translated as follows, the writing reading from right to left. The mound raised on high for Tasek. This tile, his queen caused to be made. All right, that's what it says. Remember, we read this already. So again, just want to emphasize, so a lot of these alphabets were only in use, like it says here, first millennium BC. Like if you were making a hoax or forging this, you would have to know a lot, because most forgers or hoaxers don't know this. These things were discovered later on. The alphabet of the tablet was deciphered by Spanish scholars and published by the English epigrapher D. Deringer in 1968 The language is basic Semitic, and all words occur in standard literary Semitic dictionaries, such as that of Professor Ware. The decipherment of the tablet is explained by Fell in Occasional Publications, Volume 3. All right, that's the actual publications I was referring to earlier. This is Volume 3 they're talking about. So again, many volumes exist, but they've been hiding all this stuff from us. These are scholars telling you. The European inscription, with which scholars such as Raffand and Schoolcraft compared the Grave Creek inscription, and shown to the right of the Grave Creek tablet, is written in the Iberian alphabet and in the Punic language, but alternate lines read from right to left, and then from left to right. This is called boutrophaedon, meaning a plowman's walk. The more images, right here they have an example of ancient phallic stone at Ballintaggart County, Kerry, Ireland, apparently re-engraved in Christian times with the name of deceased person. All right, so this is from Christian times, not so long ago. So the first part of the inscription is a rendering of the Celtic name, also known from a Cornish inscription, Makiari or Magari. The last part cannot be a person interpreted. All right, so this is from the Christian times in Ireland, and then they showing you an example, right, of an older artifact containing Iberian Ogam inscribed stone from Vermont. All right, they're showing you because it's the same thing. The American Ogam inscriptions use the Iberian form of Ogam in which vowels are omitted. These are much older than the Irish Ogam and date from the late Bronze Age. All right, this is what we were talking about earlier. Again, they got inscriptions over there in Ireland, right? But they're not as old as the inscriptions they find here in America. The same inscriptions, which is Ogam. It's much older here in America. What does that tell you again? Where is the origin? If those are younger, again, these are much older than the Irish Ogam and date from the late Bronze Age, as is shown by Punic letters associated with them of dated types. The inscription here reads Stone of Bel, but when complete, it probably reads Stone of Beltane, Joseph D. Germano. The alphabets and languages found on American inscriptions are fully discussed later in this book, but the representative examples on pages 21 to 22 show how the American colonists or visitors wrote in the first millennium BC. Note the similarity to corresponding examples from Europe. While John Williams and I roamed the New England backcountry for Celtic inscriptions, another colleague was making notable finds in the Midwest and Southwest. This was Gloria Farley, an intrepid explorer of the cliffs and caves that border the banks of the Arkansas and Cimarron rivers and their tributaries. Armed with a camera, snakebite antivenom, rubber latex for making impressions, and a ladder, Gloria systematically assembled a remarkable series of records of visits and settlements by European voyagers who had ascended the Mississippi, then turned west to follow the Arkansas River, eventually to reach the Cimarron along the border between Oklahoma and Colorado. Her discovery showed that some Celts had followed this southern route, and that Libyans and Punic-speaking Iberians and even one Basque king had ventured into the heartland of the continent centuries before Christ, and Gloria Farley will be remembered for these fine contributions to our national archives, a bright example of grit and determination in the face of discouragement on the part of those who might have helped her. It's called Pre-Columbian Resources Potentials, a comparison of Old World and New World petroglyphs by Margaret S. Henke. All right, and we continue on page 9 of this book, continuing to talk about the runic letters found, inscriptions, and these stones, these tablets, Ibero-Punic languages. It says that such inscriptions are not found only in Oklahoma, as it was just telling us before. Moving forth, similar inscriptions have been found in Missouri. Gloria Farley has reported a stone found near Willard, Missouri in 1970. It is a sandstone boulder approximately 3 feet square and a foot thick, lying in a pasture. Although it was damaged by a bulldozer, 5 letters 5 to 7 inches high remain. These have characteristics which tie them to Numidian or perhaps Carian. Dyson reports that most Missouri petroglyphs are found on bluffs overlooking streams and rivers. He reports particularly on the inscriptions found near Washington State Park. Although the petroglyphs do contain some large designs, they also contain many symbols. He describes these as concentric circles, bird tracks, snakes, spirals, cups, rectangles, and squares, sun symbols, oval horseshoe shapes with a bisecting line ending in a cup and a solid circle with an attached triangle, like a keyhole. All these symbols, as described, are reminiscent of Iberic script. He also reports that a large sun symbol was destroyed by road builders near the park. Missouri, with its rivers and bluffs, is an ideal state for petroglyphs, but much work remains to be done in recording them, all right? Hear what he's saying? Movement into the United States east of the Rocky Mountains occurred chiefly along the tributaries of the Mississippi. The Rio Grande, however, is also a navigable river system and seems to have provided the passageway into the southwest. Here also the rock art betrays a foreign presence. A Libyan inscription was found by Forrest Kirkland under a rock overhang near the Pecos River. According to Fell, the Libyan letters read left to right, sh, shush, and QANB, and translate crew of Shishonk, the king. There were several kings by this name who ruled Libya and Egypt between 1000 and 800 BC. Pebbles painted with geometric designs in Texas show similarities to pebbles from early European caves. Various uses have been suggested for the pebbles. They may be charms or perhaps counters. A few may be anthropomorphic. Since it is very rare to find painted pebbles, this may be a significant link to the Old World. Of all the western states where the BLM has major land management responsibilities, New Mexico has to date supplied the most material, suggesting pre-Columbian contact. Northern New Mexico has yielded a significant inscription on BLM land which has Libyan characteristics. Randy Morrison, BLM Albuquerque district archaeologist, traced the inscription from photographs of the top of sandstone outcrop about 5 miles north of the San Juan River. Fell considers the script to be Libyan Tifina. The language, according to Fell, is classical Arabic of the Iberian dialect. The translation will read as follows. First group, this place is for the sacrament of marriage. Second group, in seclusion implant semen in the maiden. And third group, as a token of marriage. Bolus Ayard, professor of ancient languages at the University of Colorado, independently studied the same inscription and reported that it was in Libyan script and said that it had to do with a fertility or marriage sacrament in a hidden place. However, he believes the words are more akin to Berber than classical Arabic. According to Ayad, this was a common marriage, fertility practice in the ancient Middle East, all right? These are professors letting you know what the inscription says. The area near where the inscription is found has several other archaeological features. One ruin is a few miles away, another almost 50 miles distant. Several cairns can also be found in the immediate area. The entire area should be surveyed for more information. A similar inscription was recorded 4 miles northwest of Chaco Canyon Monument by Dr. Ricky and bears the designation Pierce Site. The inscription is very weathered. The symbol on the lower left may not be a part of the original inscription. The inscription is a good example of the problem which faces researchers in the field. The figures are fairly standard forms in many different scripts. Thus, the possible transcriptions run a wide gamut of scripts and languages. Each transcription so far requires some modification of letters or slight inconsistency. Continuing, it says here, studies in Chaco Canyon have yielded one tan on cream potsherd with unusual lettering. The piece appears to be a rimmed shirt of a Kayatuf Lana black on white bowl, a type common for the period in the eastern Arizona and northwestern and central New Mexico. The pendant triangles are a common design element for such bowls. The style is usually dated between AD 800 to 900. What is different about the potsherd is the calligraphy, which is best matched with Semitic script, particularly square Hebrew or some Syriac offshoot of Aramaic. A suggested transcription is SYWN, which translates as Sion. The forms used date from an early centuries of the Christian era. This was the first find of its type recorded, but recently in February 1978, another potsherd with a potential Semitic script was found and reported by Morrison. It is a red mesa black on white shirt found in the Gallup area. So far it has not been deciphered. Another apparently Semitic script was recorded in May 1977 by Brad Noisad on a smooth sandstone cliff near an arroyo north of Chaco Canyon. The script is clearly Semitic and has been transliterated, reading from right to left to G to B by Buchanan. So far, an adequate translation has not been given. The use of the dot or holum above the left arm of the central symbol indicates that it cannot date earlier than the 6th century AD. The scripts closely resemble late Aramaic of early Hebrew coin script. All right, they're finding this where? In Chaco Canyon. All right, so as I said, we're going to get into some of the articles from the Epigraphic Society occasional papers series they have, publications. This is from volume 25, an article here. You will find that on page 136 of volume 25, if you get a hold of volume 25. And it's talking about the Hoven Weep inscription, a suggested decipherment of the Hoven Weep inscription by Donald Buchanan. In the fall of 1981, I became aware of the Hoven Weep inscription and responded to its challenge. I had been told that Dr. Barry Fell had worked on this inscription and requested that I do not be told Dr. Fell's findings because I did not want to prejudice my own investigation by knowing the answers ahead of time. In any case, I never got to see what Barry came up with. I present below my suggested decipherment. If I differ from Barry, the difference is amicable. The inscription is shown below. This was copied from a drawing, not a photograph. For the provenance of this inscription, I direct the reader to Philip Leonard Hoven-Webb's is a Ute Indian word meaning deserted valley. The Hoven-Webb Canyon site is in Mesa Verde National Park, which was established as a national monument on March 2, 1923. It is located about 43 miles west of Cortez, Colorado. All right, so this is the inscription right here. The dotted line is not part of the inscription, but represents a division between the two parts of the inscription caused by the structure of the rock face. I suggest that the characters might be Egyptian. The inscription thus involves hieroglyphic, hieratic, and demotic symbols. I read them in the following order. This could be the hieroglyph, right? Semit or Set, which can mean foreign country or desert or mountainous land. All right, he's showing the symbol to sow, to seed, and then he's showing this. I read it as F-A-K-H at A-T-A or Fakhet Ata. He says the third character is the hieroglyph. This one, read by Bush, by itself is a combination with certain other characters that means womb. Here it is apparently used for its phonetic value. Okay, that's what he's saying that is. To make, to cause to make offerings. Then he's saying this symbol is this, which looks just like it, the hieroglyph of a foot. Here I believe it is phonetic for Ba, which equals soul or spirit. Then he says this is this hieroglyph for house or palace. It can also mean to come forth or to go out, to depart. Okay, so that's his interpretation. This is, very similar. Why not? Here we have two characters poorly drawn. He's saying this symbol, and which he says is this and this. I read it as to go, depart, emphasizing the previous hieroglyphic. This one right here looks just like this Egyptian hieroglyphic. He's saying the masculine pronoun for thou, thee, thy. Read symbolically as ka, it could mean behold. And he breaks down this symbol, which means feast, festival to him. Yeah, he compares this to this, rise to thee, or possibly thy rising. We got another symbol he's comparing to this hieroglyph, chief, master, celestial being. He is over. So you guys kind of get the idea of what he's doing, comparing all these symbols. He's saying, I rendered this rather freely as follows. When sowing, we cause to be made offering to the soul departed. Thy festal food offering rise to the King of heaven, to the star of God of Egypt. All right, that's found there in America. So also in volume 25 of the Epigraphic Society Occasional Papers, we have an inscription from Brazil, and it's called Some Thoughts on an Inscription from Brazil by Donald B. Buchanan. This inscription was found on a stone discovered in 1972 near the town of Gaspar in Brazil. The attached photo was made in 1988. It may be seen at the following website, all right? So let me be the first to tell you that I am not a Semiticist. I am not professional in love with language and puzzles, especially puzzles that are or might be ancient inscriptions. That being said, I offer you here some of my thoughts about this puzzle inscription from Brazil. We will begin with an apparent heading located, it would seem from the photo, on the top of the inscribed stone as seen from the back. It has been computer enhanced for clarity. In the discussion of the vocabulary, the preferred readings are bold-faced. The characters appear to be Phoenician, as is clearly indicated by the manner in which the characters are drawn. They are to be read from right to left, transposing them to our own left to right. As we will with all transcriptions given here, we get MNEKBG, possibly applicable vocabulary, mana, food portion, share, all right? That's what he's saying, possibly, all right? Mana, to divide, portion out, count. The mana is the maize, remember that? That's the corn, the mana. So this is what he's saying. He's breaking it down so you guys can look at it and pause it. Again, this is from volume 25 of the Epigraphic Society Occasional Papers. Scholarly material here, okay? On the face of the stone, there are 4 inscribed lines. The inscription as shown here has been computer enhanced. The 2 circles mark 2 apparently man-made circular depressions. Again, the characters appear to be Phoenician and are clearly meant to be read from right to left. All right, here it goes again. We will discuss this inscription line by line. The te may be the beginning of the line as read right to left, or there may be characters missing before indicated by the brackets. All right, so again, he's giving his opinion, what he's seeing, but just use your eyes, look at this. This is ancient Phoenician. So again, they're finding this in Brazil. All right, Phoenician inscription. Just wanted to show you guys that. We continue. We're in this book, Before Columbus, Links Between the Old World and Ancient America by Cyrus H. Gordon. A distinguished scholar presents dramatic new evidence, archaeological, ethnographic, and linguistic, demonstrating continuing American contacts across both the Atlantic and the Pacific beginning in the Bronze Age. So we have actually read from this book, we've read like the first chapter, which is Mesoamericans portrayed by their own sculptors, and we've shown how, they find so-called Negroid features in a lot of the pottery, a lot of the stonework and sculptures. But yeah, they're finding all this stuff right here in America. All right, so make sure to catch that video. Just another example. This is from another chapter. It says here, this is from Albon, Mexico. You see that? See how he's sitting? It's saying the pose recalls the common Egyptian posture, characteristic of scribes. All right, he got some symbols right here too, the Mayan glyphs and all that. And that's either a turban or a flat top. You tell me. Now, since we're talking about epigraphy today, right? We're going to go to chapter 5, and it's going to talk about the Metcalfe stone and ancient writing. In 1966, Manfred Metcalfe made a discovery in the ruins of Underwood Mill on land belonging to Fort Benning, Georgia. The mill was built in the 19th century, well before Sir Arthur Evans excavated the first Minoan inscriptions at Knossos in 1990. Metcalfe was looking for slabs to be used in building a barbecue pit. On cleaning one of them that he had pried loose from the moldering mill walls, he saw it was inscribed. Good judgment prompted him to transmit the stone to Dr. Joseph B. Mahan, Jr., Director of Education and Research at the nearby Columbus Museum of Arts and Crafts, Columbus, Georgia. Mahan, an expert on American Indian ethnology and archaeology, has been specializing on the Jushis, who once inhabited the area, but who were forced out and in 1836 were resettled in Oklahoma, where they still perpetuate their ancestral religion. He had noted that one of the Juchi agricultural festivals had too many general and detailed resemblances to the Feast of Tabernacles, prescribed in Leviticus 23 to be accidental. All right, we've done a video on this. Make sure to check out my video on the Yuchi and this feast they're talking about, and also the Bad Creek Stone. He suspected that both the Hebrew and Yuchi celebrations were reflexes of the same East Mediterranean milieu of the Bronze Age. Continues, says, accordingly, Mahan suspected that the Metcalfe stone found on old Yuchi terrain might be inscribed in a system of writing with Near East origins in the second millennia BC. In May 1968, Mahan sent me a cast of the stone with a request for my opinion. The affinities of the script are with the Aegean of the latter half of the second millennium BC. In form, the signs go with those of the Aegean syllabary, represented by Minoan linear A and Mycenaean linear B. Two of the signs of the Metcalfe stone might be compared, as we shall note below, with syllabic symbols in linear A and B, or alternatively with letters of the Phoenician alphabet. Should the latter turn out to be correct, the stone might be said to reflect a stage intermediate between the syllabary and alphabet. All right, and this is what they're talking about. There's a picture here in the book. All right, again, Metcalfe stone from Georgia with that ancient script on it. You guys can see they found this in, again, Georgia, the Metcalfe stone. All right, so for the dismount, we're going to get into this book, The Search for Lost America, The Mysteries of the Stone Ruins, Salvatore Michael Trento. All right, so we're just briefly introducing these authors and books. Again, we're going to get into this book more thoroughly in other videos. Quickly get into it right now. In chapter 3, page 39, it says here, in the 1940s, the late Dr. William Walker Strong, a professor of physics, collected a number of cubical blocks of stone from a plowed field in the vicinity of Dillsburg, Pennsylvania. The stones bore several kinds of grooves and markings, which for years went unexplained, save for Dr. Strong's insistence that some of the obscure patterns resembled Phoenician letters. He had originally thought the markings were ancient script because many of the stone blocks bore grooves which were deep and appeared to be alphabetic in design. There's finding an inscribed axe in Pemberton, New Jersey. All right, and this is the people involved: the American Ethnological Society, the American Ethnological Proceedings, Dr. Evans' letter that he sent there. And this is the inscriptions they're talking about right here. Dr. Fell interpreted the markings as follows. The script is Tartessian. The language is Iberic. This is what it was found there in New Jersey, all right? Iberic. On an axe, stand firm, on guard, parry, close in, and strike. For the vocabulary, he went to a standard Arabic dictionary. His analysis is shown below. All right, Arabic, look at that. The inscriptions on the Pemberton stone axe cannot be scoffed at. For further up the Delaware River, we have evidence of other stone inscribed with markings also believed to be Iberic script. It says here, inscribed amulets from Delaware Water Gap, New Jersey. There have been other inscribed stones found in abundance in the Delaware River Valley. As usual, regional archaeologists, unable to explain the meaning of the etched symbols, have simply put the artifacts aside. All right, so I just want to show some of the images here of what they were just talking about. So this is the phallic amulet, Delaware Water Gap, New Jersey. Right, these are the inscriptions on it. This is a stone found at Inwood, a wooded section of northwest Manhattan in 1894. It says that it may be a vowelless form of Ogam. Let me back up real quick. You guys can see. Again, they found that in Manhattan. And they're saying that that alphabet may have been used by Iberian Celts as early as 800 BC. All right, they found that in Manhattan. Now they're comparing this Celtic sanctuary at Buchenberg, Stamberg, Bavaria, Germany. Go ahead and take a look at this, like mound, walls, right? And they're comparing it to these mounds in Ohio. So geometric works found in Ohio and Indiana during the 19th century by early settlers. American archaeologists believe these works to be American Indian in origin. All right, from Baldwin, Ancient America. We've read that book. So yeah, that's pretty interesting, right? Now I just want to show this map right here real quick. I know it's very small, but you see all these dots, right? Look, it says plate 3, map showing the distribution of mounds gutted by Cyrus Thomas on behalf of the Smithsonian Institution in the late 1890s. Gutted, destroyed, excavated. Look at all that. Look at all these dots. Let me zoom in. You guys can see, look at all these dots. Gutted mounds. You see that? all over the Mississippi. Look how it goes up the Mississippi, the real Nile, right? Now look at this terracotta. It says here, female terracotta figurine from a deposit cache, Isla Plana, Ibiza, in Spain, right? You see how it looks? Now they found the exact same thing right here. And that's from Tennessee, a kneeling female from a burial mound near Idlewild, Obion County, Tennessee. Look at the face and the head, just like this piece right here from Spain. You see that? Same exact thing. Here's an example of the Back Creek stone, right? We've gone over this. It says the inscribed stone found in Back Creek Mount, London County, Tennessee, as published by the Smithsonian Institution. The chief excavator, Cyrus Thomas, reported that the engraved characters on it are beyond question letters of the Cherokee alphabet, invented about 1821. It has since been determined that the symbols are Hebraic script from the 2nd century AD. All right, they try to hide it. They were looking at it backwards. They try to say it's Cherokee from the 1800s. Stop lying, that's Paleo-Hebrew. Aramaic, ancient. The Halley stone, the inscribed block, was actually found near the Lackawaxen Delaware River confluence. The inscription, shot for photo, has not yet been deciphered. All right, this is another inscribed stone they found in the Delaware River. Look at this. They haven't deciphered this yet. All right. Epigraphy. Now look at this urn right here. I'm going to zoom into it so you guys can look at it. That looks like Egyptian, right? Hieroglyphics, just like their walls. But where's the origin of ancient Egypt? So it says that this metal urn found near the confluence of the Shenango and Susquehanna rivers, Binghamton, New York. It has Punic and Egyptian style, may date to 1500 BC. All right, they found this in New York. See what they found here in New York? Where's the true ancient world? Look at this. What's that? The dragon? What's that here on the sides? You see what they found here? Take a good look. Break the spell. All right, break the spell. New York. Now they're showing this. See this little piece right here, figurine? This is the drawing. It says seated person pendant carved from obsidian found along the banks of the Delaware River, not far from Hawk's Nest Mountain by Antonia Ryder. Insert illustration is a small bronze figurine cast in Egyptian style that was uncovered in Carthage. It dates to the 6th century BC. The resemblance between the Delaware find and the Carthaginian artifact is striking. All right, it's a side view. All right, this is the one they found over there. Where's the true original one? Right here in the Americas, again, in stone. Not in drawings, in stone. It says here, engraved pebbles, Lackawaxen, Pennsylvania. It says one of the teams hauled a 500-pound granite block from a river island near where the Holly stone was found. The cut stone contained many parallel grooves and striations along its surface. As yet, the markings on this stone, as well as those cut into the Holly stone, remain uninterpreted. But it is important to note that similar stones with grooves and slashes have been found throughout New England and Europe. Based on these preliminary findings, ground disturbance patterns, and possibly 2 inscribed stones, a test trench excavation was performed at a potential occupation site some 100 yards from the Lackawaxen Delaware confluence. At a depth of about 3 feet, a small inscribed pebble was found associated with tiny flakes of chipped stone. No further artifacts were found. An investigation of the area showed that many community people living near the rivers over the years had found similarly inscribed pebbles. Jody Lynn Kahn, a student at Delaware Valley Community College, brought such an inscribed stone to this center's attention. The stone is indeed interesting, for it seems to belong to the same series as the similarly 3 and 4 hulled rough engraved pebbles found in the Tras os Montes dolmens and other funeral sites in northern Portugal. These objects were either tied to the body of the deceased by the threaded holes, or else they served as charms attached to the clothing or necklace of a living person. Although the Tras os Montes examples have been previously read as Basque, it has been difficult to determine whether the ones we found near the Lackawaxen were indeed Basque or Celt Iberian. They were, however, likely to be one or the other. Either way, it's either or, as the culture was the same. The date, if it had been a European find, would be around 800 BC. It is unlikely that the stones found by Mark and other people along the two rivers were forgeries, because the full implications of Celt Iberian script were only recognized as recently as 1975. You see that people didn't even know that language, so how would people be making forgeries with that language or writing if it wasn't recognized until 1975? Furthermore, its reportage in past years has been infrequent and limited to professional epigraphic journals. Thus, the combined result of our fieldwork brought to light a cache of marked stones and an interesting deposition site near confluence of the Laxawaxen and Delaware rivers. The stones were inscribed with symbols unknown to American Indians, which have been interpreted as a variety of script that was used in ancient Europe. All right. So we're gonna end it here for now. But guys, don't worry, I'm gonna go through all these books further. We're gonna look into all these findings so we can analyze it and see how many it really was. And we're gonna get into some deep stuff now, because we're talking about, right, Celts, Phoenicians, Iberians, Basque, Vikings, possibly coming over here. I can get down with that. But knowing that America's the true old world, what if we're seeing it in reverse? Who are these people they call the Phoenicians, Vikings, Celts, the Gauls, Basque? What is their relationship to ancient America and the people of ancient America? That's what we're going to get into, because we're in the search for lost America, right? We are in the search for lost America. Who are the Danites? Who are the Picts? Who are the Phoenicians? Who are the Chaldeans? Let's not forget the previous research. Make sure to catch up, if you're new to the channel, to the presentations that we've done before, because it's about to get deep. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, just to open up the discussion. And I know a lot of people have been waiting for me to talk about these ancient explorations before Columbus and all these things they're finding here in America, these ancient scripts. So here we go. Got a lot more coming. Thanks for tuning in. Much love and respect. Pura vida, mi gente. Hawa.